Hi Reddit, I'm 29, and I want to tell you about how I ended up trapped in a situation I still can't fully explain. It all started with what looked like a harmless baby shower invite. My younger sister, Elise, is 27 and expecting her first child. We've always had a rocky relationship, think oil and water, but we've kept things civil the last couple of years. Mostly for our parents' sake. We don't hang out one-on-one, but we're fine in group settings. Or so I thought. 3 weeks ago, I got a pretty, pastel pink envelope in the mail. It was a formal invitation to Elise's baby shower. Now, this already felt weird, because Elise and I barely speak directly, and usually anything family-related is sent through our mom. But I shrugged it off, assumed she was trying to make an effort, maybe bury the hatchet. I wasn't even going to go at first. I had a work trip planned that weekend, but Elise reached out via text, saying she really wanted me there. Said it would mean a lot. That alone was suspicious. Elise never said things like that. But against my better judgment, I rescheduled my trip. I even picked up a few nice things from her registry and wrapped them up beautifully. I was trying to be the bigger person. I wanted to believe things had changed. The baby shower was being held at our aunt's house, about 45 minutes away. A backyard event, lots of family and friends, cute little decorations, everything looked normal. But the moment I walked through the gate, I knew something was off. Every single person there turned to look at me the second I arrived. And not in the "yay, she's here" kind of way. It was more like I'd walked into a courtroom mid-trial and everyone was already in on a secret. Elise gave me this weird, strange smile and motioned for me to sit near the front, right by the gift table. I tried to act cool, but my stomach twisted immediately. Something wasn't right. I hadn't even taken off my coat before one of Elise's friends, some girl I barely knew, handed me a glass of lemonade and said, "You might need this." She smiled like it was a joke, but there was tension in her face that didn't match her tone. That was the moment I knew, this wasn't a celebration. It was an ambush. So there I was, lemonade in hand, standing in the middle of a backyard full of people who suddenly felt like strangers, even though most of them were family. Elise didn't even come over to greet me properly. She just hovered by the dessert table, glancing at me like she was waiting for something. Watching me. I sat down where she'd motioned, even though every instinct was screaming at me to leave. But I didn't want to make a scene. Not yet. I told myself I was just being paranoid, that the pregnancy hormones, the stress of the event, maybe they were just making her act a little weird. The first half hour was awkward but manageable. People mingled, there were little pastel cupcakes, someone passed around a Polaroid camera. But then Elise clapped her hands and said it was time for a game. Now, I've been to baby showers before. Diaper raffles, guess the due date, baby food tasting. That kind of thing. But this was something else entirely. She stood in front of the group, holding a decorative box. Then she smiled, too wide, and said, "Let's play a little truth game." I thought it'd be fun to clear the air before the baby comes. And just like that, she started pulling out slips of paper. Each one had a statement on it. Anonymous, supposedly, but clearly written in familiar handwriting. And all of them? Petty. Accusatory. Targeted. The first one was something like, "Someone here once lied about being sick to skip Elise's birthday." Cue a round of forced laughter. But I knew what it was referring to. 2 years ago, I had the flu the weekend of Elise's birthday dinner and had to cancel. I guess she never believed me. The next one, someone in this room flirted with Elise's boyfriend in high school. That one got a bigger reaction. Some guests looked confused. Some just straight up turned to stare at me. Again. I could feel the heat rise in my face. Elise was smiling like this was the most entertaining thing in the world. And that's when I realized, these weren't games. They were carefully chosen accusations. And they were all about me. Every single one. I don't know if anyone else noticed the pattern yet, but I did. Elise was airing out every grudge she'd ever held against me, in front of a crowd, under the guise of baby shower fun. And I still hadn't figured out why. I wish I'd walked out right then and there. But I didn't. I just sat there, frozen, clutching my untouched lemonade and trying not to show how much my hands were shaking. Elise kept pulling slips from the box, one after the other. Each truth felt like a direct hit. One of them claimed I once stole money from our parents' emergency fund. Another one said I'd lied about breaking an heirloom vase when we were kids. That one drew a few gasps from the older relatives. The worst part? Nobody questioned it. Not once. It wasn't long before the guests stopped laughing. They were too busy watching me, some whispering, some with that polite, pitying smile people wear when they think they know something you don't. I couldn't understand what Elise was trying to accomplish. I'd expected a baby shower, not a trial. But it became more and more clear that Elise wasn't just trying to embarrass me. She wanted to ruin me. At some point, our aunt tried to step in. She gave Elise a look and said something like, "Maybe we should move on to opening gifts?" But Elise brushed her off, said she had just one more. And then she read it. "Someone here has a habit of going after men who are already taken." My entire body went cold. And before I could even process what was happening, Elise turned and looked directly at me. Not even pretending anymore. She said, "Maybe now would be a good time for my big announcement." Everyone was dead silent. She placed her hand on her belly like she was gearing up for some heartfelt speech, and then she dropped it. "Before I got pregnant, my husband and I took a break. And during that break, he slept with someone in this room." My mouth went dry. The air left my lungs. Because I already knew where this was going. Everyone did. She didn't say my name. She didn't have to. All eyes turned to me. I felt like the ground had cracked open beneath me. And the worst part? I didn't even know what she was talking about. I had no idea what she was accusing me of. But that didn't matter now. Because the trap had been set, and I was right where she wanted me. I wish I could say I stood up right then and there and defended myself. That I shouted the truth so loud it silenced everyone. But in that moment, I was just stunned. Frozen. People were whispering. Some gasped. My mom looked horrified. My dad kept glancing between Elise and me, clearly unsure what to believe. And Elise? She stood there, glowing and smug, like she'd just won something. And still, she never said my name. She just looked at me, dead in the eye, and said, "You know who you are." A few of her friends giggled like it was juicy gossip. But others, family, looked uncomfortable. One of my cousins even got up and walked away, muttering something under her breath. I finally found my voice and asked, "Are you seriously accusing me of sleeping with your husband?" Elise didn't respond. She just smiled, gave a little shrug, and said, "I didn't name names. But if the shoe fits." It was so rehearsed. So deliberate. I looked around the yard, desperate for anyone, to speak up for me. But everyone just stared. Some avoided eye contact. Others looked at me like I'd just grown horns. Here's the thing, I didn't sleep with Elise's husband. I never even liked him. He always gave me weird vibes, too touchy, too flirty when Elise wasn't around, but I kept my distance. Always. If anything, I avoided being alone with him altogether because I knew how Elise got about stuff like that. So to hear her suggest this, publicly, no less, made me feel sick. But it wasn't just the accusation that hit me. It was the realization that she'd planned this. Every second of it. From the invitation to the lemonade to this twisted little truth game. It wasn't about clearing the air. It was about clearing the room. Turning everyone against me. I stood up, said I wasn't doing this, that this was insane and not true, and Elise cut me off. She waved her hand like I was being dramatic, told everyone not to make a scene, and said, "Let's move on." But the damage was done. She'd planted the idea. And once it was out there, no amount of denial was going to put it back in the box. I didn't stay for the gift opening. Or the cake. I didn't even say goodbye. I walked straight out of that backyard and into my car, shaking so badly I could barely get the keys in the ignition. I didn't cry, though. Not yet. I was too angry. Too stunned. Elise had always been jealous, always competitive, but this? This was next level. To accuse me of sleeping with her husband, in front of friends, family, and people I work with? It wasn't just cruel. It was calculated. And the scariest part was that people seemed to believe her. But here's where the story took a sharp turn. Later that night, I got a text from my cousin Jenna. She asked if she could stop by my apartment. I said yes, figuring maybe she wanted to check on me. She showed up half an hour later with a face that said she'd seen a ghost. She didn't waste time. She said she knew I didn't sleep with Elise's husband. When I asked how she could be so sure, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "Because I heard the real story." Apparently, after I left the baby shower, Elise had gone back inside for a private moment with her two closest friends, girls I barely know but have always given me dirty looks at every family event. Jenna was in the guest bathroom next to the den and overheard everything. Elise admitted it was a lie. She didn't name me because she couldn't, there was no actual proof, because it didn't happen. But she told her friends that everyone already assumes it's her anyway, and that this was the only way to get people on her side after what he did. I blinked. What he did? I asked Jenna. And that's when she told me, Elise's husband had cheated. Not with me. But with someone. And Elise found out weeks ago. They'd separated quietly while Elise tried to spin the story in her favor. And guess who she decided to throw under the bus to distract everyone? Me. I finally understood. The shower wasn't about celebrating her baby. It was about burying her shame. At my expense. I barely slept that night. I kept going over every second of that shower, every fake smile, every knowing glance. Elise had been playing everyone. And I'd walked right into it. Jenna's confession rattled me. But it also lit a fire in me. I asked her if she was willing to tell anyone else what she heard, but she hesitated. Said she didn't want to get involved. Family politics, she called it. She'd already risked enough by coming to me. So I was alone again, only now, I knew the truth. And I knew that Elise had weaponized that lie on purpose. She hadn't just hurt me. She'd manipulated an entire room into thinking she was the wronged one. A poor pregnant wife abandoned and betrayed by the one person she was supposed to trust. And it worked. Because the next morning, I started getting texts. Some were vague, wow, didn't expect that at the shower, but others were direct. A family friend messaged me to say she was disappointed in me. My aunt said it was a shame that I couldn't keep my distance when Elise was trying to start a family. Even my mom, my own mom, called me and asked, in the quietest voice, "Is there something you're not telling me?" That broke me. I told her no. Over and over. I swore on everything. And to her credit, she said she believed me, but her voice told a different story. Because Elise didn't have to prove anything. She just had to plant the seed. And now, I was tainted. No one cared that Elise had no evidence. No one questioned why a woman who hadn't spoken to me in weeks suddenly needed me at her baby shower. Because that's the thing about lies. If they're wrapped in enough emotion and served at the right moment, people swallow them whole. Elise wasn't just trying to humiliate me. She was rewriting history. And I had no idea how far she planned to take it. I stayed quiet for a few days after the baby shower. I didn't respond to most of the texts, didn't call anyone, didn't try to defend myself. What was the point? Nobody wanted the truth, they wanted drama, gossip, a villain they could whisper about over brunch. But then I saw it. Elise posted a photo on Instagram. A glowing selfie in her nursery, cradling her belly, with the caption, "Growing this little miracle on my own, even after the betrayal." Some people will never understand the meaning of loyalty, but that's okay. I've got all the love I need right here. 2 hearts #strongmama #newchapter #family first. And that's when I knew, she wasn't done. She was still twisting the knife. She hadn't just accused me, she was building a whole narrative around it. Turning her lie into an identity. The brave, heartbroken mom. The poor woman cheated on by her husband and her own sister. And people were eating it up. The comments were full of sympathy. "You're so strong, Elise. Can't believe someone would do that to you." Sending love and prayers. And one that made my heart stop, "She always seemed jealous of you." It was only a matter of time. They meant me. That comment had 20 likes. I scrolled, sick to my stomach, and found Elise had liked it too. I didn't want to fight dirty. But if Elise wanted to burn everything down, I wasn't going to sit in the ashes quietly. So I started digging. I went through every photo Elise had posted in the last 6 months, every tag, every check-in. And then I found it. A photo of her husband, at a bar downtown. It was posted by a friend of his, someone I hadn't thought twice about until I saw the date. It was from 5 weeks ago. Right around the time Elise claimed they were taking a break. But in the background, seated beside him, tucked into the corner of the booth, was another woman. Face turned slightly, but not enough to hide the fact that she wasn't me. And she wasn't Elise, either. At first, I wasn't even sure who the woman was. The picture wasn't high quality, and she wasn't facing the camera directly. But I knew I'd seen that face before. That hair. That posture. So I zoomed in. Took a screenshot. Enhanced it the best I could. And then it clicked. Her name was Marissa. She used to work at the same office as Elise's husband, back when he was still doing sales. I remembered her from a couple of years ago. Elise used to complain about her constantly. Said she was too friendly, and once claimed she caught her laughing too hard at one of his jokes at a holiday party. I never thought anything of it. Elise got jealous easily, and back then, I chalked it up to her usual drama. But now? Now I wasn't so sure. So I did some digging. Marissa's profile was mostly private, but not all of it. And what was public told me more than I needed to know. There were 2 pictures that sealed it. One was a mirror selfie, nothing obvious, until I noticed the phone case. A custom-made one, the exact same design Elise's husband had a few months back. But now it was in her hands. The second? A blurry photo of her brunch, mimosas, eggs Benedict, nothing special. Except for the reflection in the window behind her. Elise's husband. Same shirt, same watch, same smug, checked-out face. The date? Just 10 days before the baby shower. My stomach dropped. He hadn't cheated on Elise with me. He'd cheated on her with Marissa. And Elise knew. That's why she planned the whole charade. Because the real story would make her look weak, foolish. Not like the empowered, glowing single mom she was pretending to be online. So instead, she handed the scandal to me. Because what's more believable than the bitter sister? The one who always wanted what Elise had. The one who, according to her, couldn't stand seeing Elise happy. I realized then, Elise didn't just throw me under the bus. She parked it on top of me. By the time I finished connecting the dots, I was beyond furious, but also calm. Strangely calm. Like the kind of quiet that settles in right before a storm hits. Elise had crafted this fantasy where I was the villain, and she was the hero. All while the real story, the real betrayal, was sitting there in plain sight, just waiting for someone to look close enough. But nobody wanted the truth. They wanted a show. So that's what I decided to give them. I didn't confront Elise right away. I didn't message her, didn't reply to her post, didn't even tell our parents what I'd found. Instead, I waited. I watched. And I let the lie breathe. I posted a photo of my own, a quiet one. Me, on my balcony, holding a mug, wrapped in a blanket. The caption? Just one sentence. The truth always finds its way home. It didn't take long. People started speculating. DMs started trickling in. A few of Elise's friends even messaged me, saying they hoped I was okay, that things seemed a little intense lately. I played it cool. I said I was just focusing on myself, keeping peace, wishing everyone well. Meanwhile, I kept digging. Quietly. Patiently. I screenshotted every piece of evidence I had, Marissa's brunch photo, the booth picture, the posts and captions Elise had liked. I gathered screenshots from group chats where people had trashed me based on her lies. I even got Jenna to agree, reluctantly, to record a voice memo explaining what she'd overheard that day after the shower. And then, last night, I got what I didn't even realize I needed. Marissa made her Instagram public again. And in one of her stories, just for a split second, there he was, Elise's husband. Holding her hand. Clear as day. No denying it. And suddenly, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I waited until Sunday night. That's when I knew the most people would be online, scrolling through their phones, winding down for the week. Elise had just posted a new photo with baby bump, glowing caption, thousands of likes. She was milking the attention. The sympathy. The lie. And I was done watching. So I posted mine. It wasn't a rant. It wasn't dramatic. It was just a quiet carousel of truth. First slide, that blurry booth photo, Elise's husband with Marissa, clear enough for anyone with eyes to recognize him. Second, the brunch window reflection. His face unmistakable. Third, a zoom-in of Marissa's mirror selfie with his phone in her hand. Fourth, the damning screenshot of Marissa's story, their hands locked together. Fifth, Jenna's voice memo, transcribed in full, her words simple and devastating. Elise admitted she made it up. She said people would believe it because they always blame her sister anyway. Final slide, a black screen with white text, I never slept with her husband. But he did cheat. And she decided that ruining my name was easier than facing the truth. I didn't tag anyone. I didn't name names. But everyone knew. Within an hour, the post had exploded. Comments flooded in. Some apologized. Some were in shock. Some admitted they'd believed Elise, but now they felt sick about it. By morning, Elise had deactivated her account. Her carefully curated lie, gone in seconds. She tried calling me. Twice. Then she sent a long text, half rage, half panic, begging me to take the post down, to think about the baby, to stop humiliating her publicly. But here's the thing, I didn't humiliate her. I just stopped covering for her. She humiliated herself. I didn't respond. Instead, I made coffee, went out onto my balcony, and sat in the same spot where I took that first quiet photo. The storm had passed. The family was split, some silent, some supportive, a few trying to act like none of it ever happened. But I don't care anymore. Let them decide who they believe. I know what's true. Elise wanted to turn me into a villain so she could wear the crown of the scorned, saintly mother. But all she did was show the world exactly who she was. And now? Now she gets to live with it. Just like I had to.